Robert says only voters of the town of Sandgate can speak. I knew that wasn't going to go over well.
Power and authority are my middle name. And if I can lord it over 120 people, it's much better than lording it over any member of my family.
I really enjoyed the task and the position, and which I think surprises some people. People come and say, why are you doing this? I can't imagine doing this.
You can't very well hold a town meeting where you're doing the town's business if it's going to be WrestleMania 10.
It's still important to them, and it's important to the process too, for people to get together and talk to each other.
The first couple of years, I probably knew 95% of the people personally. This past year, if I knew half.
And so he keeps on continuing, being more adamant. What he doesn't know, and the rest of the room knows, is that Harold Beatty was sitting next to me.
Turned to the camera and I said, for those of you who are at home, get out here to the municipal meeting and be a part of democracy in action.
Any burning questions while you got them? Drive carefully.
Thank you.
That's probably the shortest talk we've had from any politician over the last 30 years.
Tammy, I'm a Brooklyn boy, but arrived and bought my home and property in Londonderry in 1963. Had an opportunity to relocate a business to Vermont, brought that along, and raised two great sons with a wonderful wife as a partner, and this town has been magnificent to us. It's truly been a home, and it's been a wonderful 50 years to date. So,
happy with your choice then?
very happy with my choice.
Good.
It's
Good.
resulted in two guys that have grown up well, and now are all in the big world while mom and dad remain in Vermont.
So when did you become the town moderator? How did that happen?
My predecessor left the area. This was about 1993, 92. And I had served this town. They had honored me by having me as their state representative for a decade or so. And once that ceased, I was volunteered to step in when Bill left and take over as moderator. That volunteer commitment is now 20 years, and I advise the town that that's enough self-flagellation for anybody. So, as I see it, and I tend to maybe look at things differently than others, I look at town meeting as an opportunity for people to be heard. And whether I agree or disagree, that doesn't play into any of the role of the moderator. The moderator, in my mind, should be a facilitator. The moderator should see that the town meeting moves along at a reasonable pace, but more importantly, that anybody and everybody who feels that they have something to contribute to the discussion on the floor has that opportunity. We in Londonderry, people who are non-residents by statute should not have the opportunity to participate at town meeting. When I started early on as moderator, I felt that the demographics of our community is such that probably half of the folks are non-residents, that they're being deprived of an opportunity to participate in our local government. So at the beginning of each town meeting, I asked the body, the local body, if they will allow anybody an opportunity to speak.
The body meaning the people?
That's correct.
Okay.
And at 1 year, they said no. It was a year that we knew there was going to be a lot of debate going on. But at our town meeting, the 7th and 8th grade from the Floodbrook School sends a class to view town meeting. So I realized at that point, if we followed through and didn't allow non-residents, non-voters to participate, we would exclude the kids from asking questions. And I think that adds a lot to town meeting. So the town rethought itself, and we allowed everybody to talk, and we do allow everybody to talk. And it adds some different perspectives sometimes.
Certainly. So a second homeowner can participate in town meeting with
By the
thoughts
permission,
and ideas
that's
by,
right, by the permission of the voters.
Okay. And then when it comes to a vote, how do you handle that?
Only those who are on the checklist are allowed to vote.
Right. Okay.
And we monitor that. We instituted a system probably about 10 or 12 years ago that when people arrive beforehand, they go to the town clerk, check in, and they're given a colored ID card, just an index card of a different color each year. That shows that they're a voter. So if we have hand counts, we can check by who is an actual voter by just seeing the color card. And it's worked very efficiently.
Color coding. It's a timeless
Oh yeah,
tool.
we became modern. If you know your audience, and after 20 years you get to know who's going to say what, you're going to know pretty much how they're going to vote on most issues. And in order to balance it, I'll try and facilitate the debate in such a way that will alternate between a pro and a con.
And you know who
Pretty
the
much.
pro and the con.
Pretty
Somebody
much.
stands
I'm
up.
I'm surprised sometimes.
And you say, okay, I know what they're
Pretty much. When I see the hand go up, I pretty much can understand where that person has historically come from. Over the 20 years, though, the body has changed. The first couple of years, I probably knew 95% of the people personally. This past year, if I knew half, it was a lot. Everybody's so young today.
That's a good thing,
They've
right?
all gotten younger, and I've seen classmates of my children at town meeting who are talking about their children, and that's very upsetting.
You know, town meeting can be a long day. So how do you prepare for it? Comfortable shoes, lots of coffee, or is there anything that you do
Pretty much.
as a routine? For 20 years, you might have developed a routine.
Actually, the town has been nice. When I started, there was no microphone, no chair, and no podium. Over the years, first there was a chair.
Oh, good.
Then the town made a microphone available, and the last couple of years there was a microphone and a podium. Unsolicited, but I think that was were gentle hints that maybe I was maturing. It just comes naturally. Fortunately, I'm in reasonably good shape. So.
Good.
The governing roadmap for town meeting is first state statute and what's allowable. Absent specificity in state statute on certain requirements for town meeting, the fallback is the parliamentary Bible of Robert's Rules of Order. It's the, as I say, Bible on how to proceed, and that's the one that governs the order of issues to be raised, what takes precedent, how to. Certain issues require 2/3 majority, some just majority, some votes have to be done by paper ballots, others don't. That's the general roadmap. It's an interesting thing that our towns are governed by Robert's rules, but our Vermont state legislature uses what's called Mason's rules, a real obscure set of rules that are completely different than our towns are supposedly governed under for parliamentary procedure. Don't ask me why, I have no idea. But our towns have to go under the umbrella of Roberts, but our state legislature uses Masons.
What's the toughest part of the job?
Being fair. As I say, when there are issues, and I don't care how objective a moderator may be, you're torn with your personal inclinations on an issue, and you have to submerge that and control that. And as I said, in trying to be the facilitator and trying to alternate the pros and cons, a moderator can very easily stack the speakers to those folks that espouse the moderator's position on it. So it's a true test of fairness. And I've won most of the time. I admit I've lost on occasion, but.
Can you speak to a specific issue over the 20 years? Can you think of a town meeting day that was just a tough one and you thought, boy, that was a long day and I'm glad it's over?
There are two that come to mind. Going back to the late 70s, the town had an opportunity to receive federal monies to open a community park. The debate went on and on where people said, no, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it on our own, and the others who said, well, let's take all the federal money. And ultimately we had a vote. While the issue was discussed at town meeting, the vote was held after town meeting, and the vote was a dead tie.
Oh, wow.
A tie defeats. So we defeated accepting federal money, but the town went ahead on its own and built, through a lot of volunteer labor and effort, Pingree Park. But that town meeting was long and difficult. Then we had a wind turbine issue. Just a short time ago.
Right, what year was that recently?
2000, I want to say 7 or 8,
okay.
9, when Glebe Mountain was to be the site of 23 400-foot wind turbines. Needless to say, the community was absolutely torn. The select board was torn, the community was torn. I would guess that we had, normally we'll have anywhere from 200 to 250 people at a town meeting. That year, I think we were better than 400. And that debate went on for a long time. We couldn't decide anything because it all dealt with the town plan, but everybody wanted an opportunity to be heard. That was a tough day. That was a long day. That was the one that probably challenged my own personal feelings to a great extent, but we managed, we survived. The town is still here, people are still talking to each other. That was a busy one.
That was
a
long
good
one.
That was a good one.
Yeah. What's the most fun part of the job?
The people. Yeah. The people. When you get a couple hundred folks come to a town meeting, it's the worst thing I can do to them is have a meeting without paper ballots. If you don't have a paper ballot, it means that people don't have an opportunity to get up and mill around and stand and talk. And the last couple of years, we've had a number of paper ballots, but so that wasn't a problem. But there were a couple of years where there was going to be no paper ballot coming up. And everybody was glued to their seats, and you knew that the person on the left side of the hall wanted to talk to somebody all the way on the far side of the hall. So I will admit that there are times that I've taken a moderator's prerogative and ended up being indecisive and called for a paper ballot to allow people to mingle and socialize a little bit.
Right. Well, you're reading the crowd as well.
Yeah.
People are getting antsy. We better.
The other responsibility is that normally one of the Baptist church arranges for a lunch, and it's an income producer for the church, but more importantly, it's another opportunity for folks to socialize. 1 year, we had nothing to discuss. And the challenge was, actually, I had made the fatal mistake of allowing town meeting to be adjourned before lunch. And it was just a freaky day, and needless to say, the loyal ladies of the church reminded me that it should not happen again. and we never ended town meeting before lunch ever again.
Well, I think part of what I want to discuss too is the future of town meeting as an institution, as a process. And do you think it'll be around in 50 years or 100 years?
I'm not. I can't prognosticate. I would hope it does. I think this is a true sense of what Vermont is. I mean, it's not only Holsteins and grass and beautiful orange and red leaves, it's people. One of the things we lose sight of is that as great as the Sabra Fields paintings may be, there are no people in there. Vermont is people.
Right.
And town meeting is people. And town meeting is the heart of a town. And I would hate to see that ever disappear.
How do you think the technology and the use of digital communication is changing the way we communicate to each other, and how do you think that'll affect our democracy?
Well, maybe instead of 120 characters, town meeting allows people to speak for a minute or two. And hopefully they'll never lose that ability to communicate orally. That's an education issue, but I think that maybe that's another reason to keep town meetings and have more town meetings, is to allow people the opportunity for this oral discussion. And it's not constrained by digital requirements.
So, did you ever have to stop someone from talking too long? Do you have a limit? You know, if I have an opinion and I want to filibuster town meeting?
Just as a matter of practice, I will try and remember if somebody has already spoken and will not recognize that individual again until I see that perhaps everybody has had their opportunity to speak, then we'll allow to go back. One of the things that troubles me the most, there will always be somebody within the body that feels that they've listened long enough and they've already come to their conclusion, and they will call the question, the parliamentary rule, to cease debate. I will do everything to discourage that. Because I feel that everybody who wants to say something should have that opportunity to say something. That disturbs some folks who feel that, as I say, they've heard enough. There are times I have to, because that's the parliamentary rule. But sometimes I haven't heard it. I haven't heard that call, the question, and then gets people a little antsy. They get disturbed with me. But my role is to be the facilitator. My role is to let people express themselves. And again, it's more than 120 characters.
That's right.
So.
It's interesting. The role of public access television is that, to allow people to voice their opinion and to facilitate the process of media making. So it's interesting, being the administrator of a facilitation organization, sometimes it's hard to sort of explain what we do. But it's very similar in many ways.
If anything, what you're doing, in my mind, although it doesn't allow people to participate, but it's allowing everybody in the community who really wants to, the opportunity to see what went on at town meeting, to understand the thinking of those folks who were in attendance, why they voted to do things that they did. You're giving people a tool that they can't say that they didn't know what went on that day. If they're that truly interested in what happens in their towns, You're giving them the opportunity to see their select board meetings. You're giving them the opportunity to see their town meetings. And they can follow the conversation or add their thoughts after the fact. So it's good. And
Yeah,
this
and
is
part
not
of
a
it-
paid commercial, by the way.
Right. You're sure?
Positive.
What are your hopes for the future for the town of Londonderry?
That it doesn't lose the character of the town of Londonderry that I've known for 50 years, where people respect one another, where people understand that not everybody is going to agree on everything, that most of those people who are performing civic duties are doing it not for their own personal agenda, but for the benefit of the community. And I'd hate to see that lost. There's always somebody who's going to continue it, what's in it for me, but over all of these years, it's been very altruistic by nature, and I hope it continues that way.
So you mentioned you're leaving your post as town
Right,
moderator of
right,
Londonderry.
right.
What are you going to miss the most?
I won't miss the sore feet. I won't miss the homework. There is a lot of homework to be done beforehand in identifying all the articles, getting all the background information in place. The thing that I'm really going to miss is looking out at a couple hundred faces of people who are really serious about what they're doing there that day. And their general warmth. This town, as I said, has, in the couple of times our family has had an issue, the town has been just magnificent. You don't get that in Brooklyn.
Right.